Greetings, aliens. It is 2022, and it's high time that we had some insights on what Elon Musk has in store for us. I mean, after all, he's only our INTER-GALACTIC COMMANDER. The idea this time that's going on in Musk's head is a nuclear-powered Starship. Yeah, sounds crazy, right? But, I mean, that's not really the case for Musk and his team. In this video, we're going to take a look at what's going on inside that big, beautiful brain of his. I mean, what's the idea behind a nuclear-powered spaceship? In July 2019, Elon Musk tweeted, "Nuclear thermal rockets for fast transit around the solar system would be a great area of research for NASA." And this was how a crazy idea came into existence. This opened so many doors in not only the scientific community, but also lots of job opportunities and a whole new area of research. This is something that's crucial to the whole future of humanity and Earth, given the fact that Earth is facing global warming and climate change, and that's posing a huge threat for all living creatures. Whereas the reason for this situation is primarily on the humans, the idea should help us out of this, well, calamity. The Spacex CEO talked about how the alternative to rocket fuel could help his company achieve speedier travel times around the solar system, which is a pretty hot topic as his company works on ambitious projects to build a planet-hopping civilization. While the concept brings up the images of Fukushima or Chernobyl for this matter, theorists argue that it might limit the amount of radiation astronauts are exposed to. Deep space already exposes people to severe levels of radiation, and while having a nuclear reactor on board, a spaceship would generate its own radiation. The time saved on the journey would far exceed this. Okay, so let's break this down some more. When astronauts are traveling in space, they obviously don't have any atmosphere. Now, if you know basic science, you also know that the atmosphere on Earth is the reason why humans and all other living creatures are free from radiation from the sun and other celestial activity. But astronauts are exposed to these radiations because they don't have any atmosphere. But you might argue that introducing nuclear fuel would cause, well, more radiation. While this is technically scientifically very true, the fact that the time is reduced by a phenomenal amount of time will help astronauts be exposed to less radiation in space. Again, yes, it's dangerous that there's radiation on board, but there's already radiation in space, so the slower you go through space, the more radiation you're exposed to anyway. I mean, imagine being exposed to constant radiation for 6 to 9 months. This is why Elon really wants to go ahead with this idea. To be clear, good for in-space transit, but not recommended for Earth to orbit, Musk tweeted out. Musk was replying to a story from Universal Sci about how nuclear rockets would cut the time it takes to travel from Mars from 8 months to just 100 days. So, this is for obvious reasons. Radiation from nuclear accidents can travel miles together. I mean, we've all seen this from nuclear accidents in history. Using nuclear fuel in the orbit of Earth would prove very lethal to the existence of humanity, because given the fact that the air quality is bad enough, we really don't want a part of our atmosphere being just completely irradiated. Spacex is currently developing and prototyping the stainless steel Starship, fueled mostly with methane and liquid oxygen, with the goal of a manned mission to Mars in mind. Using this as a rocket fuel means that humans can set up a propellant depot that creates more fuel for the rockets on the surface of Mars. Kind of like an interplanetary gas station, thus enabling a return flight home and trips even further out in space in one day. Musk has even suggested that SpaceX could establish a full-blown city on Mars by 2050, a goal that these nuclear rockets could bring up to speed even more. Today's chemical-based rockets basically work by burning fuel, then pushing exhaust fumes out the nozzles and creating thrust that pushes an enormous rocket into space. Nuclear missiles, on the other hand, are equipped with a nuclear reactor that heats fuel like liquid hydrogen and then ejects fuels from the nozzles again at high speed. It's this concept that Musk and his team wants to use in the next generation of spaceships. The reason nuclear missiles excite scientists is that, depending on their design, they can generate many times more power than traditional missiles. Please note that we use the word missile and rocket interchangeably because nuclear doesn't exist as of now, and it's only fair to compare this idea to something very close to nuclear rocket, which is, well, the nuclear missile. So anyways, back to the topic. Specific impulse measures the amount of thrust produced by the use of a particular fuel unit. Saturn V, the very rocket that took humans to the moon, had a specific pulse of 421 seconds at the second stage booster. By comparison, according to the European Space Agency, the basic version of the nuclear missile can reach 900 seconds. More radical designs can reach even faster, of course, just like the Orion drive, which essentially detonates an atomic bomb under a missile, which could reach an honestly mind-blowing 100,000 second specific impulse. NASA's been studying this concept since it partnered with the Atomic Energy Commission in the 1960s. In fact, a few weeks after Neil Armstrong set foot on the moon in 1969, engineer Wernher von Braun devised a way to reach Mars using a nuclear reactor. The idea then was to use 3 nuclear boosters in orbit that connected to the capsule of the central core. Von Braun announced his mission in the early 1980s, unfortunately, partly because of the lack of public support for sending people to the wastelands of the sky. The Nixon administration had canceled almost all of Braun's plans. Nuclear missiles resurfaced in May of 2019, when the Household Commission approved $125 million for research into the development of nuclear thermal propulsion systems. Funding was provided by the Congress, the US one, of course, in addition to an additional $100 million, about 70% of which was for the 2024 demonstration flight. The new fund did not mention a specific period or demanded a multi-year plan or whatever. Roscosmos is also exploring the possibilities on the Russian side. In November 2018, the agency revealed plans to use a nuclear space cruiser to reach Mars. Oh, and by the way, in the race for reaching Mars, we also have Hollywood celebs who want to direct and produce movies in space. So hey, we can escape the inevitable heat death of our planet, and they can make a 7th sequel to the Avengers. Dan Kotliar, an assistant professor of nuclear radiological engineering at the Georgia Institute of Technology, said, "Nuclear thermal propulsion systems offer the greatest versatility for near-term deep space missions, such as NASA's planned Mars and near-Earth asteroid missions. This is due to their high energy density. These systems almost have twice the efficiency of the best chemical engines out there, along with comparable thrust levels." Comments made at a joint meeting of the Space Research Commission and the Physics and Astronomy Commission outlined how the stainless steel rockets formed in Texas and how they'll evolve space travel. Musk said in an event that Starship's highly anticipated orbital flight could happen as early as January 2022. So there's your New Year's gift by Mr. Musk. I was personally hoping for a flamethrower and was kind of sold out, but whatever. The next phase would be the orbital flight, in which the company will send the ship and the booster on a 90-minute trip. It'll lift off from the Texas facility, disconnect from the booster after 2 minutes of liftoff, give or take, and end its flight around 60 miles northeast of the Hawaiian island of Kauai. During the very same event, Musk claimed the launch pad and tower were planned to be complete by late November. The company Spacex will then complete a series of tests in December before moving to an orbital flight in the next year. Is it not pretty cool that this man is constantly like 3 years in the future? Well, anyways, here are his further plans. The Starship is also planning to land us humans on the moon as part of the NASA Artemis project. The agency's administrator, Bill Nelson, hinted earlier this month that the mission would likely occur no earlier than 2025. At the 2017 unveiling of BFR, Musk introduced a very ambitious plan and timeline for sending 2 uncrewed ships in 2022 and 2 more uncrewed ships alongside 2 crewed vessels in 2024 to the moon and then possibly to Mars. We're on the brink of a new era of space travel, and it's all thanks to the idea of nuclear fuel. I mean, who knew something as small as molecules just moving around subatomically or whatever could prove enough to be a giant leap of advancement for humanity? Now, this idea of nuclear rockets has got to get most of us excited. It seems like all of our childhood fantasies are coming to life before our very eyes. Although it will take some time and a lot of engineers and scientists, you can now actually travel through space and stare at the stars through a window. You finally have the chance to be planet hopping, as SpaceX terms the concept of moving from one planet to another. I mean, hello? Were you not lost in your dreams of space travel? I would not blame you. I kind of am too. Where am I? And that's a wrap for today's video. Until next time.